Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to another overdue and highly anticipated episode of Will Shawn Like It? A series that I started last year but floundered on. It's where you, my subscribers, suggest books for me to read, newer books. And it's got a bit of revision. It can be fiction or nonfiction and but published no earlier, more or less, than 2022. So something that's just a year or a little over a year uh, old, preferably even newer. If something's just brand new, would be fantastic. So do let me know what you would like me to read, and we'll figure out a way of getting that book to me. Now, this is the second one, as I say, and this was suggested by Brandy at the Book Eclectic, and it's Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare Blake. Now, this is a bit older than normally that I've said. This was published in 2011, originally by Tor, and it's their teen section. It's a young adult book. It's a ghost story, horror story. And yeah, and will I like this? Well, let's talk about what the book's about first of all. It's about a young man. Well, yeah, he's late teens. He's 17 years old, and he's a ghost hunter. He kills ghosts. Now, 10 years prior to this, like it's a family tradition basically, and his father was killed by a very, very powerful ghost. So he has taken over, and he started when he was 14. So he's been at it for about 3 years now. And we find out at the beginning that him and his mother, who's a witch, by the way, they move from place to place as the job requires. He thinks of it as a job. So he's a loner. He doesn't get to know people at all, and so it opens up as they're moving, and they move to Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is sort of the neck of the woods where I grew up. It's a bit north from where I was, but still northern Ontario, still sort of out in the back of the beyond. Even though Thunder Bay is a pretty big place. But yeah, so they go for Anna Dressed in Blood. He gets tips of and suggestions on where to go, because there's a bit of a network that's around the worldwide, and there's a few people like him, these ghost hunters and ghost killers, and he's like a ghostbuster, but he doesn't like that term. And there's lots of references to Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well throughout this. But he goes there and he starts school, and he gets to know some other teenagers at the school, and they talk about this ghost Anna, and he had sort of found out that she was found dead with her throat slit about 60 years ago. At that time, in 1955, I think it was. And there's a number of people that have disappeared, and the folklore, the local lore, is that she's responsible for it. And so they go to her house and they play a trick on him. They bang him over the head with a plank and throw him in the house. And she materializes, but she winds up killing one of the other boys. That's the complete dick, as they say in the story. But she doesn't kill Cass. And his name is get this. His name is Theseus Cassius Lowood. Yeah. So he goes by Cass. So, but she doesn't kill him, and he feels different about her, and he does research and everything. He finds out, like, they eventually find out that she not only was brutally murdered, but in a very sad and tragic way. But that is just sort of part of the plot story. The other story is because, as I said, Cass is a loner, and he winds up getting a motley crew together. Um, like, as I say, there's lots of references to Ghostbusters and Buffy the Vampire Slayer to help him with this. But not only this, this case, there is something else. The creature, the ghost that killed his father, he has been preparing himself to try to hunt down that ghost and kill it. And that becomes his biggest challenge. And he needs all his his motley crew, and he finds help in unexpected places because he normally does not make friends. Not well, because he moves around. And so there's a big battle at the end. I won't spoil everything that happens with it. And yeah, and obviously he's triumphant. That's all I'll say. He is, but I won't say anything more. Now, I'll get to the point where do I like it in a moment. Now, interesting things, but like I say, it's a young adult book, so right away I have my hackles up a little bit. There's many things that are it is very YA-ish, young adult-ish, because of the age of the participants for the most part. And, their goings on with school and things like that, which gets a little tedious at times, yes. And generally I find with these, like, I haven't read too many, but what I find is that they're very superficial with a story. There's one good thing that I, well, there's many good things, but the thing that I like about this is you don't know everything that's happening right at the beginning. There's certain things, and this is where there's going to be a few spoilers here now. Cass has a knife. It's an athame, I think it's pronounced. It's a magic. It's a knife that's used in magic rituals. Now it's the name is thrown in, and you see things that are done to it. A ritual that's done after he uses it to kill his first ghost. Sort of harkening back to a Buddy Holly type era. Well, before, actually, because after. Sorry, it's 1970, but I had vibes of of that kind of thing. But anyway, and it's showing, and then as the story progresses, you get these little tidbits, like it starts explaining stuff, but in a very organic way, and it works through the story, because you're going, okay, well, what happened to his father? How old was he? And then you find out that he was 7 years old when this happened. Then you start getting a few other things that come out about the ghost, like why is he killing the ghosts? Right at the beginning, why does he need to do that? Why are some ghosts, as it says, kill people and some don't? And why isn't every person who's dead need this done to them? This information comes out slowly throughout the story, and is done in a very good way. And the thing that usually that I find is that they don't go into too much depth of this stuff. This dips down into it. I wish it went more. Because there was lots of interesting ideas in here that I want to know more about. But again, as a writer, it would be difficult to maybe put this stuff in unless you have a character that there's no info drops. Let's just put it that way. But you need a character like a Van Helsing character, and they do mention Van Helsing as well, throughout the story, where there'll be explanations being done of what's actually happening in the background. They do have one character that does that slightly, but not to the depth that I would like. But that didn't spoil it. And the other thing is, like, as a lot of things, there's so many pop cultural references through things. And to me, they can make or break a book sometimes. And usually I they don't work all that much for me. I like it when it's an old book that does that, but when it has current stuff that are sort of my age stuff or my memory of seeing things and knowing things, it sometimes doesn't work. And here it's half and half, I think. He's 17 years old, and there are references to stuff that a 17-year-old would actually get, or that would understand. But there's things that, see, this is where the author puts in, I think, their cultural references, because obviously the author is older than the character in there. So there's things you're going, well, would they have actually said that? Would they have done that? Would they be aware of these things and aware enough of it that to make a reference to it? These are all the things that I question. However, they're not too far out of the realm of possibility, because the character is a bit he's a loner and stuff, so he might be more familiar with this kind of stuff. Yes, I can accept that, except that they don't actually say that. They don't build that into the character, that he likes older things or stuff like that. They usually never do. But when he does say it to other people his age, everybody seems to understand what he's talking about, which, yeah, it's more for the reader. But again, it's, this was passable. This didn't have any bad sort of references, that I would say bad references that completely jumped out off the page out for me, except a couple things. Now, the character sometimes talks a little too old for himself. Like, he'll be, because it's written in the first person, so he'll say something, oh, I've seen many, many changes of the seasons. He's 17 years old. Yeah, there could be that sort of hubris for that, but the what was said and how it was said was more of an older person. So that jarred me a little bit for the character, but that could be just a personal thing for me, thinking that it took me out a little bit. And a few of the references, because there's a reference to Old Yeller, and I thought, well, in North America, maybe, yeah, that might be okay, because there's more older films on TV, and repeats of this kind of stuff through the Turner Classic Movies, and I think some younger people are a little more versed in older films than they are, say, in England here, and it's not because they may not want to, but they just don't have the exposure to this stuff. So anyway, there's a few things that jarred me a little bit. Another thing that I thought was kind of strange, because they clearly are American, and they just sort of pop up in Thunder Bay, without any problem. They just cross the border and they start living there. I know it's not part of the story, but it makes it a little too simple of the way they did it. Like, it wouldn't have taken much just to write something in about him or them getting okay to go and live there and go to school. It just, yeah, that seemed a little strange. But not, like I say, it wasn't a big thing, but I just sort of scratched my head and go, I wonder how that happened. Let's see, what else? Yeah, it's a few things like that sort of take you out a little bit out of the story. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is, like, clearly, but this is, if it's a fault, it's a fault in dozens and hundreds, if not thousands, of books, especially crime sort of novels, where there's too many deaths, there's too many bodies piling up. And this is Thunder Bay, where it basically approaches, or just over 100,000 people, which is quite a population. But for the amount of deaths that is supposed to have happened there in 60 years, and strange deaths, it's too much. It's just too much. And then currently, these things that are happening, is too much. For not something to be questioned. However, the author does deal with this a little bit by saying that when strange things like this happen, they usually, the authorities, gloss over it after a while if they can't find anything out, saying that it's a transient, person going through that did this murder or whatever. So that's sort of covered up a little bit, but it's just one of these things that are endemic with this. It's like, just I was thinking of this just before I did the video. Inspector Morse, the Morse novels with Colin Dexter. It's set in Oxford. There's more deaths in one book than there are murders usually than, or if you count up the body count through all the books, there hasn't been that many people probably killed in Oxford for centuries, and this is over a short period of time. So yeah, there's those things. But it's well written. It's a very, very easy read. And yeah, it actually went quite smoothly. And now the question is, will Shawn like it? Did I like it? Yes, I did. I did like it. Brandy, I did like it, and I would actually like to read the sequel. Like I say, all those other things, I like the things that niggle me about YA and all these other things. Like, these are things that I can put aside because there's enough that kept me going, because it chugged along and made me want to read and continue reading it. And I read it quite quickly, and that doesn't happen all the time with stuff. So these other things I can push aside and enjoy, and I enjoyed this. So thank you for suggesting this. And yes, I do want to read the sequel at some point. Girl of Nightmares. I don't think it'd be something I'd reread unless if it's a decade or more before I get to the Girl of Nightmares. Then I might need to reread this, but I hope to be able to reread to read the second one within the year, maybe. Hint, hint, if anybody wants to purchase me the second one so I can read it. Excuse me. Yeah, you see, they're coming after me here now because I said I like the YA book. They figure there's something wrong. Anyway. But yeah, the cultural references just go ballistic at times. Like, he's referencing The Hobbit, everything, the Smurfs, so many things. The one thing is, like, they mentioned Ghostbusters, and they mentioned or several times Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they have it in italics. And I just wondered, like, I suppose copyright wise, it's okay to refer to the title of something, but if you get too much detail, then maybe you're encroaching on copyright. Or did they have to get okayed from the estate, or the production companies like Joss Whedon for using the full title, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, without mentioning it? Because he didn't mention The Hobbit. He mentions an aspect that he doesn't. So maybe there is something that you have to get okayed, and maybe the Tolkien estate wouldn't okay it for him to say, for the author to say Hobbit. So there's an oblique reference to something. I don't know. But anyway, yes, I did enjoy it, and I'm rambling now. And I'll end the video now. But if you do want me to read a book, the next one that I've got is this one here, and this will hopefully be done in March. It is Don Winslow, City on Fire, and I'll be reading that in March for Will Shawn Like It? So, and I've got one for April or May because it's a vampire book that I'll be doing. So I need other books. So do please join in the fun. And as I say, preferably something that's published within the last year, from 2022 to now. And yeah, there's ways of doing that. Sending me money through PayPal, or buying it off of off of Amazon, sending me a gift certificate. There's all sorts of ways to do that, and I can always look for used copies. That's perfectly fine, to make it cheaper, because who knows when I'm going to like it, and this is the fun thing. So do please join in the fun. Thank you, BookTube.